in order to make sure that we answer questions properly and there's no perception of the NTSB engaging anything in local and separations there. So we're going to just say thank you really quickly. We're going to have the NTSB come up here, brief you on where they are in the process. Then the city will come back up here and answer any specific questions on where we are from the process on our side. So you have the chairwoman of the NTSB. She'll come up here shortly. She's right out there. She'll answer any questions, tell you what's going on. Then we will resume from the city side, answer any questions separately. So we'll ask you guys to separate those two components out with regards to questions. I think Kim is providing you right now the names of the individuals and confirmation for those of you that don't have that. So we'll give it a minute, and the chairwoman of the NTSB will come in, and then we'll take it from there afterwards. Okay?
Thank you for joining us. I'm Jennifer Homendy, and I'm chair of the National Transportation Safety Board. Our investigator in charge for this investigation, we call the investigator in charge the IIC, is Leah Reed. That's L-E-A-H, and then it's R-E-E-D. The National Transportation Safety Board is an independent federal agency that's charged by Congress with investigating every civil aviation accident in the United States and significant events in all other modes of transportation. As you know, we're here to investigate yesterday's crash of a Bell 206L4 helicopter into the Hudson River near Jersey City, New Jersey. The helicopter departed the downtown Manhattan Wall Street heliport in New York at about 14:50 for an air tour flight. The helicopter is owned by Meridian Helicopters, LLC, which is based in Broussard, Louisiana, and operated by New York Helicopter Charter, Inc. Before I go on, I want to extend on behalf of the entire NTSB our deepest condolences to those who lost loved ones in this tragic event. I also want to start by thanking the first responders. This was a tremendous, tremendous effort. And I want to thank specifically, first and foremost, the mayor for allowing us to be here in City Hall and do this press conference, and for all the support that you've given us and the team. I also want to thank the Jersey City Office of Emergency Management, the Jersey City Police Department, Jersey City Fire, Jersey City EMS, Port Authority of New York and New Jersey Police Department, the New Jersey Park Police, the New Jersey Transit Police Department, Hudson County Office of Emergency Management, the NYPD Special Operations, FDNY Special Operations, New York City Office of Emergency Management, the United States Coast Guard, the Army Corps of Engineers, and so many others that we will continue to mention in our follow-up press briefings. Now, I want to set expectations for this press conference. This crash occurred yesterday at about 3:15 p.m., so we're not even 24 hours later. Rightfully, the focus yesterday was on, first and foremost, victim recovery, and then wreckage recovery. Our investigators, the NTSB, we stay out of the way. when victim recovery efforts are in process. That is first and foremost, most important. Our investigation can always wait. Once that was done, we had Luke Chiata, who is our chief of our Eastern region, who lives right here in New York, on scene as part of the wreckage recovery operations. And those two were the focus for yesterday. The rest of the team began to arrive late last night, including me, and early this morning. So that means this is the first full day of our investigation. And as you can see, our investigators are out doing some of the work that I'm about to talk about in just a second. But as far as information sharing today, I am not going to share a lot of investigative information. We have a lot of information, but we do not speculate. We need to confirm information. That is a process that takes time. So I will say, I understand that you have a lot of questions, and we will attempt to answer them over the coming days. A little bit about our team and our process. We have 17 people who are here on scene. That includes 10 investigators. They are supported by a minimum of 10 experts back in our headquarters in Washington, D.C. The on-scene specialists, they are experts, and they have the following specialties. Operations, they'll focus on the helicopter operator. They'll look at the owner of the helicopter itself, and they will look at pilot qualifications and other information. We have experts on helicopter airworthiness, on structures, and on systems. We also have our evidence management team here, as well as our transportation disaster assistance team, which is responsible for working with the family to get them the assistance they need throughout the course of the investigation, not just here on scene, but in the coming days, weeks, and months throughout the investigation to the issuance of our final report, and sometimes for months and years beyond. The wreckage exam began this morning. Our team, I was there, our team began pulling components and the engine off the wreckage and other components that they would like to more closely examine. Most of their focus was to turn it upright and move the helicopter or the wreckage inside so that they can begin to do a more comprehensive examination and get to the other side of the wreckage that was against the pavement. We also are aware that there are dive teams. The New York Police Department is still diving for components and pieces of the helicopter that we are still looking to recover. Those include the main rotor, the main transmission, the roof structure, and the tail structure, and we appreciate all of their hard work. And then we have a whole team that is collecting the standard information that we normally gather as part of any investigation, which includes pilot qualifications, logbooks, history of the helicopter, maintenance logs, and so forth. We do have the logbooks for the pilot. The pilot held a commercial pilot certificate with rotorcraft and instrument ratings. The pilot reported 450 hours of total flight experience on his most recent medical, which was issued on September 20th, 2024. As of March 29th, 2025, the pilot accumulated about 788 hours of total flight time. We still need to calculate flight time in that Bell helicopter, and I'll have more information on that hopefully tomorrow, because he previously was flying a Robinson 44. Now, what we are hoping is that we are able to get the public to send us any photos or video you may have or if you want to contact us because you believe that you have information that could be pertinent to our investigation, please reach out to us, provide that information to us. We will get in contact with you at the following email address: witness@ntsb.gov. That's witness@ntsb.gov. Now, I will take some questions. Again, a reminder, I know there will be questions for very detailed investigative information. I am happy to talk about the team, their qualifications, the process. I am not going to speculate on investigative information. We are very factual, and we will provide that in due course. So I will call on you. Please state your name, your affiliation for me.
Sure. It's Matthew Chase of Newsday. To the extent you're able to share this, is there a preliminary cause? I realize you gave that early talk. Is there a cause preliminarily that you can share with us?
The question is there a preliminary cause? We do not have a preliminary cause. That takes time. As I stated, our team focused on helicopter airworthiness and structures and systems is at the facility with the wreckage, doing the wreckage exam. That takes time. Of course, it takes time to also gather information, records that we need to comb through, so we do not have that at this time. And just to mention, as regarding cause, we will not speculate on cause ever, but we will not be determining any sort of preliminary or probable cause at the scene of an accident. We don't do that. What we are doing here is gathering the perishable evidence, the evidence that we need to gather for our investigation. When it comes to maintenance logbooks and other materials, we can look at those materials later on. What we need to do is look at the wreckage now. We need to focus on finding some of the additional components and structures that we're looking for, conduct witness interviews, and gather the records that we need. We can review the records later, so that probable cause will not occur for quite some time. Yes, ma'am, and then we'll go here. So the question was what we were doing with the engine. Nothing that we would not normally do as part of our standard investigation, where we would have wreckage and we'd start separating some of the components that we always look at. That's standard in our investigation. Of course, we'll have a team that always looks at engines or power plants to evaluate them as in standard course of our investigation. So nothing in particular. It was in the wreckage, and so we separated it from the helicopter so we could take a closer look at it in a more upright position. Yes, sir. The question is, what will us looking at as part of this investigation on scene tell us about cause, and what will we be looking at related to the safety history as part for this particular helicopter company? First of all, we always look at safety history. That's a standard part of all of our investigations, so we'll collect that. Not just from the Federal Aviation Administration, that is a party to every single one of our investigations, but we'll also ask those questions in interviews and get other information that will help us get a very broad view and detailed information about the safety history of this particular operator and also the owner of the helicopter itself. With respect to what will it tell us on scene about our investigation, the evidence right now, everything is on the table. We don't rule anything out. we take a very detailed and comprehensive view, and it's way too early in the investigation. It will be too early on scene. That's much later in the investigation. Yes, ma'am. The question is, what have we been able to glean from the videos that are already circulating on social media? Those are very helpful for our investigators, certainly, but a lot of those videos are from a very far distance, and so we'll have to look at those a little bit further back at headquarters, but we're hoping to get some additional videos that provide us information. We don't know what people have recorded or taken pictures of that could be helpful in an investigation. We have found in past investigations, and I'm just thinking of one that I went to in Ketchikan, Alaska, a mid-air collision where photos from somebody who was on board one of the airplanes helped us significantly in our investigation. So it can be very key parts of our investigation. So for anyone who didn't hear my previous request, please send us any sort of videos or photos or information you'd like to share with us at witness@ntsb.gov. Yes, ma'am.
I know when you do these investigations, you also come out with recommendations. I mean, knowing the history of these crashes so far, are there any thoughts that you have in terms of regulating this industry even before looking at this particular crash, just based on the amount of crashes that are taking place at these sightseeing helicopters in general? There's a lot of debate on whether they should operate at all.
So the question is, do we have any sort of concerns or have we issued any sort of safety recommendations in the past about these type of air tour operations? We have. Actually, we did. So this particular operator was governed under Part 135 of the Federal Aviation Regulations, but this particular operation was under Part 91. All air tours are. We have issued an entire report on Part 91 operations with respect to revenue passengers. We believe in one level of safety strongly, and that may not look like regulation for a major commercial airline, but we do believe that they should be regulated. We have issued recommendations in the past on recorders, crash-resistant recorders. We've issued numerous recommendations on safety management systems, on particular regulations for Part 91. It's too early to say what we would recommend as part of this investigation. However, this is a concern that we've raised for a number of years. Certainly we raised this after the Fly Nyan crash, and in a specific report that we have online at ntsb.gov focused on Part 91 revenue passenger operations. And so I would direct you actually to that report. It was very comprehensive about our recommendations, specifically about air tour operators. And if you can't find that, our media relations team can help provide that information, because we did issue a set of recommendations to improve safety in this area. That will be part of the question is, was this operator complying with those recommendations? Those are recommendations, not regulations, but we would have to look at that, and that will be standard in this investigation. So thank you very much, sir. And then I'm going to go over here. Have we recovered the rotor? We are looking for the main rotor and the tail rotor right now.
Get them the heck out of here and let them fly down the Hudson River. I'm telling you right now, if something isn't done, there's going to be a disaster where they're going to crash into one of these buildings or crash into the neighborhoods up there. They're annoying, and they're bothering. People have been asking and asking and asking, and nothing has been done.
Thank you. There was a comment about, thank you, sir. There was a comment about the concern about these helicopter operations, and thank you very much for sharing that. Appreciate it. Yes. The question is, what would result? How did this essentially? How did this tragedy happen, where a helicopter would break apart in the air? I understand that is a significant concern and a question on everyone's mind. It is going to take time. We need to do a very thorough examination of the wreckage to determine what occurred first and how that occurred. Once we have that, we'll be able to release that to the public.
Some more questions?
Yes. Sure. Yeah, great question, because I think sometimes people are reluctant to really reach out to us because they may not think something is relevant to our investigation. So the question was on reports of a large flock of birds in the area shortly before the crash. We are aware of those reports. We discussed it this morning. It's something we will be looking into. What I will say to the public, if something struck you as different, or maybe you paused, or it crossed your mind that maybe it's something you would like to share with our investigators, there's no downside, please, in sharing that information with us. You can be very helpful in providing that investigative information to the NTSB. So again, witness@ntsb.gov. Even if you think it's irrelevant, please send it in. Yes, sir.
Hi, Stephen Nesson, WNYC Radio. You said there are 17 people on site here working on the investigation and 10 in D.C. Is that how many people you would typically have for a helicopter crash investigation? Is that the same number, for example, during the Flynon helicopter crash, or have cuts of the federal government reduced your number of investigators?
So the question is, the 17 investigators here and 10 who are supporting back home, but the 17 personnel here, 10 of which are investigators, is that typical for an investigation like this? How would it compare to Fly-Nyon, and would it be less as a result of any sort of cuts to the agency? First of all, let me address the agency. We have not experienced any personnel losses other than typical retirements in our agency. Our agency has been provided with, by the administration, thank you, an exemption from the deferred resignation program. We got a hiring exemption for several investigative positions within each of our transportation modes, so we can bring our numbers up to help us in our investigation, and that is critical. So we have not suffered in any way. With respect to comparison on Fly-Nyon, I don't know how many investigators were here on Fly-Nyon. Certainly our media team can provide that to you. It really isn't... What I will say for our investigations is when an accident occurs, we look at what might be areas we want to look into. How many people can we send based on the rest of our workload? And because we have a pretty heavy workload right now, and that is the decision making that goes into what expertise do we need and who do we want to send. That is what feeds into that. So it might vary depending on the investigation. Okay, that is the end of questions today. What I will ask is that you monitor X, which is NTSB_newsroom, and also NTSB.gov, which is our website, which will have updates on future press conferences. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay. If there's any questions to our emergency management or director of the police, we could answer those as well. If not, we'll close it out and say thank you for coming.
Do you know, was there a black box? I know this may be an NTSB question, but do you know if there was a black box?
Want to speak to that, Craig? Black box question.
Sorry. Hello, my name is Todd Inman. I'm one of the NTSB board members, and I'm on the on-call board member for this accident. We sometimes don't pick our places. So we have an NTSB GO team that arrived in Canton just several hours ago, and we're beginning an investigation into a crash of an AeroCare 3 Eurocopter operated by MedTrans Corp, which resulted in 3 fatalities. NTSB is an independent federal agency that is tasked with investigating every civil aviation crash in the United States, along with other major transportation accidents and crashes. We also issue safety recommendations in an effort to try to prevent those things from happening in the future. Now, before I go any further, let me just express the condolences on behalf of the entire NTSB to the families and friends of those who perished in this accident. We know it's a traumatic time for not only them, but for the community and for the first responders. Our hearts and thoughts go out to them and everyone affected by this. Before we go into some of the details of the accident, I did want to mention we've also started briefing Senator Wicker's office, along with Senator Hyde-Smith and Congressman Guest. I also want to sincerely give our appreciation to the sheriff who's with us from Madison County, Randy Tucker. I know he knew someone personally on this flight, as many of you may also as well. So their team has been on site since the very start of the incident. They've secured it. They've been a great partner in this investigation so far and have really aided in our investigation to date. I'm going to give you some initial factual information that we have on the aircraft and the accident. The flight was designated as AirCare 3. It had a departure from the University of Mississippi Medical Center at 12:28. The plane then began operating at approximately 2,500 feet. At one point during the flight, the AirCare 3 ceased communications with air traffic control and then made communications and contact with their base operations, indicating they were having a flight control problem and they were going to attempt a landing into a field. On board that flight were 3 people, 1 pilot, 1 flight nurse, and 1 paramedic. The pilot was employed by Medcare, the operator of the aircraft. The additional 2 individuals were employed by the University of Mississippi Medical Center. The plane in question was a 2012 Eurocopter P2 Plus. And we're currently reviewing and trying to obtain all of the maintenance records in regard to that specific equipment. The operator's been very helpful with us up to this point, and has been working to make sure that we're getting the most accurate information as we go into the investigation. In regard to the timeline, after the takeoff at 12:40, a 911 call from an employee here on the reservation area said he saw and heard a crash of a helicopter. Within 4 minutes, a response began by local authorities. First responders who were on the scene indicated an initial fire plume, followed by a secondary explosion approximately 15 to 20 minutes later. Now, due to the site terrain and where the location is, which you all know we're in a very remote location, it took approximately 2 to 3 hours to extinguish the fire. We'd like to give, again, a lot of appreciation to the first responders. They had to drag a lot of hose and lines. They had to shuttle water in and out. So it was a very arduous task. It would be for anyone under normal circumstances, but here it was even more complicated. And we just finished our initial site visit. And so we are, during that site visit, we actually were able to observe what were called tree, is the correct term? Tree scratch marks. I'm trying to be technical in it. These would be consistent with a rotor strike. We've also been able to identify almost all of the main components, and they're in a fairly localized area. As far as the debris field goes, there's a few areas that are away from the main aircraft, but it's generally in one concise area. But it is in a very muddy, hard to access. We had to use ATVs to get in, and it's about anywhere from 6 to 8 inches of standing water where the location is. There is extensive thermal damage, which is consistent with the first response, the responders and the initial person that we saw. So now I'm going to walk you a little bit through the NTSB process and how we will analyze facts. We will determine a probable cause and issue a report of those determination. In every one of our investigations, we designate an investigator in charge. And for this one, it is Mitch Gallo, who is with us here. Mitch is out of our Denver office. We flew him in late in the middle of the night into New Orleans, and he drove up this morning. He has 25 years experience with the NTSB, and he's conducted over 1,400 investigations. So we have a very tenured team and group, along with multiple other professionals that came in through commercial aircraft, and many of us that came from Washington, D.C. this morning. Now, Mitch is going to be leading a multidisciplinary group, and he can speak to that in a few moments. But in addition, we brought with us one of our family and survivor assistance team. His name is Dan Morgan. He'll be working with the coroner and the families, working through the process of metallurgical and other things that we're mandated by Congress to do. A few hours ago, we held an organizational meeting and began to establish parties to the investigation. As of this time, the parties to this investigation will be Medtrans, the operator of the aircraft, the Federal Aviation Administration, often referred to as FAA, GMR. GMR is the parent company of Medtrans. This flight was being operated under Medtrans certificate, but GMR will have a representative as a party. Also, because of the manufacture of the aircraft, we will have technical representatives from Pratt & Whitney from Canada, along with Airbus helicopters. We offer this party status to those organizations because they can provide technical expertise, relevant information, and help the development of the best possible factual report. Once a party joins the NTSB investigation, they are not permitted to release any information or talk publicly about the investigation without the consent of the NTSB. Generally, any other media or outward-facing reports you will get will be from the NTSB and most likely the investigator in charge or our media relations department. All of the parties so far have been working with us very well. It's very appreciative. And we will continue to work with them throughout the duration until we come up with what we consider to be the probable cause. Now, today's was our first full day on scene. A number of the members will be on scene for probably a week. At that point, they will start to analyze some of the evidence. But the reason why we're here and we'll do this investigation is to not just find out what happened, but why it happened, and to recommend changes to help preventing things like that from happening in the future. We will not be determining the probable cause or even speculating while we're here on scene about what may have caused this. This is the traditional NTSB way of conducting an investigation, and we'll continue with this one as well. We will try to keep you informed if we have additional updates, but generally what will happen is that we will issue a preliminary report within 30 days. And then a final investigative report will be released in approximately 12 to 24 months. And we do want to ask, especially the media that's covering this, if there's any of the public that has relevant information, such as videos, dash cams, Ring doorbells, in this area, possibly game cams, if they could email us at witness@ntsb.gov. That email address for anyone who has relevant evidence or information regarding this crash is witness@ntsb.gov. So with that, I'm going to ask Mitch to actually come forward and discuss a little bit, because this is a little bit of a unique scene. I know that we won't be taking any of the media there. He will discuss a little bit of the investigative process and what we do in a scene like this. Mitch.
Thank you, Member Inman. My name is Mitch Gallo from the Central Region Denver office. Today's activities, we had an early morning planning meeting on how we're going to proceed, determine scope, and we're actually going to begin our on-scene work. Now, we received the call yesterday, the notification, and at that time we started pulling records, various records regarding the crew and the aircraft, and also radar data. Today's activities will be looking at non-perishable evidence. We'll document that before we move the aircraft at a later date. We'll also follow up with witness interviews. There are several witnesses we want to talk to. Any functional testing at this point will have to be determined at a later date due to the extensive damage from the fire that ensued. Yes. Anybody have any questions or?
Yeah, Mr. Inman, you said that it was in 6 to 8 feet of water. Did the aircraft go down and would it the trees?
No. So let me clarify. The question was 6 to 8. I think you said feet. Yes, it was inches. 6 to 8 inches. That can be approximately. That is the area we were stepping into. Where the actual location is, it's we haven't seen underneath it, but it's in that general vicinity around it. As you can see, we were stepping down into wearing mud boots, so it is a very wet, murky, muddy type location.
Was it an open field area?
So the question was, is it an open field area? I can't say that there's a large open field that looks to be what I would suspect where they were attempting to land. It looks like a large clearing. But where the actual wreckage location is, it's right on a tree line, directly on a tree line. That's how we notice the scrape marks. There's portions of the actual rotor blade that are a little bit further into the tree line. Those have all been marked by the sheriff's office and the first responders, and will be part of the evidence collection. Additional questions? Can you tell me who you're with and your name? Sorry, it's okay.
I'm with WLBC Channel 3 in Jackson. What does the process look like as far as after we finish out here in the field?
And so the question was, what does the process look like after we are done with collecting perishable evidence immediately on scene? We have a number of experts that are not only here but in D.C. The investigator in charge and his team will start to collect what they think may be relevant subsequent items. Now, due to the thermal damage, some of the testing may be more complicated, but they will then take whatever items they believe needs additional testing or at least collection and retention and ship them back to D.C. or put them in a secured holding site in this area. We will then use all of the data that the different parties, such as the NTSB data that was on the plane, a lot of other information that we will use to analyze, and they will start working through what are called group chairman reports. And those group chairman reports will ultimately rise up to a report that will be voted on by the board itself. Sometimes it's a public hearing, sometimes it's not. But at that time, we will use that time to determine the probable cause and then what we consider to be contributing factors. Hopefully, if we find anything, not hopefully, but if we find anything of relevance, we will then make recommendations. We've done a lot of air medical flights in the past. We've made many recommendations throughout the last 20 or 30 years. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I was in Denver with Mitch, meeting with an operator of air medical flights, specifically about helicopter operations. So it's something we take very seriously. Something like this, they're actually first responders too, so it's even tougher whenever they go down. Additional questions? Yes, sir. Who are you with and your name?
Smith, WJTG. So
When do you have an estimate on when the pilot lost control with air traffic control?
So the question was, sorry, it's been a dry day. My apologies. The question was, when did the pilots lose? The pilots did not lose contact with air traffic control. They stopped communicating. They were then communicating with their dispatch officials. That's not entirely unusual. So there's just no additional transmissions. They were letting them know what they believe. We have heard that audio. We will not be releasing that audio at this time, but we have heard it. So the entire team during the organizational meeting was able to hear what they were saying. It was obvious they knew that they were having some type of systems issue. And based on what they commented, they were looking to land in that field. It unfortunately did not happen the way I think that they probably wanted it at the moment.
All right, this is Ross Adams for the 16 WAPT here in Jackson, Mississippi. Can you explain what you mean by thermal damage to the aircraft, and how soon will it be before the wreckage is moved from that location?
So the question was thermal damage and how long it will be before the wreckage is moved. Thermal damage is typically heat or associated fire. That is what we would call thermal damage, because it can be not only radiant heat, it could be direct to fire exposure. Regarding moving, I'll confer with Mitch if you want to speak what your plans are to it.
The question is when we're going to remove the wreckage. I believe there's a weather system. We have to follow that coming in on Friday. We're going to try to do our diligent work prior to that time, and we're shooting on trying to complete that on Thursday afternoon while keeping an eye on weather.
Yeah, let me just clarify that. We will take as long as it takes to get the right evidence, to find the right information, to come up with the probable cause. The weather system, we have to worry about everyone's safety here. The good news is the sheriff's office to keep the scene under a secure facility for as long as we need to. We want to be as expeditious as we can with that, while we can at the same time making sure we're preserving the perishable evidence. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Kip Smith, WJTV, Channel 12 in Jackson. Will you have to cut a road in there when you lift this out? The wreckage?
The question is about the wreckage extraction. Mitch, you want to take that?
The wreckage extraction is going to be done by a salvage operator that's experienced in doing this kind of work. We're there to provide counsel to make sure we don't lose any of that evidence during that recovery, or try to minimize that.
Ask question?
Yeah, and let me, I guess to clarify that, the main question was cut a road in. We were able to drive up very close to the location where we got on the four-wheel drives. So I don't think the main thing I would say is that we're not looking to impact the reserve or any of the reserve activities. We want to do it with the least disruption possible while still maintaining the site. I know it's very important for a lot of people here, and there's also turkey season that opened today, so we're understanding of that. Last question, according to them. Yes, ma'am.
What's the overall timeline of finding out what the probable cause is?
So the question was about overall timeline. It'll take as long as it takes. Some are very more complex. In this case, because of probably the damage, there'll need to be some additional review, maybe testing at our headquarters. Generally, we strive to release reports within 2 years. Typically, it's 1 to 2 years. It will be one of those things whenever we'll have to just let the facts dictate.